Three adventurers braced for impact against towering beasts outside the cavern entrance. Charging through the dust, Est struck without hesitation under Athena's support, dropping one beast and staggering the second. Cheers echoed for Athena after the victory, her powerful magic proving once more how indispensable she was to Est and the party. Memory of her past confession fueled his ambition, driving him to reach the apex of the world at her side. Lingering doubts soon crept into his mind, foreshadowing a rift that would alter their fates forever. Cold silence gripped the room when Athena announced her final verdict, leaving Est frozen in disbelief. Desperate to plead his case, Est reached out to protest the expulsion and prove his value to the team. Athena answered with icy composure, stating that their higher rank now demanded more raw power than he possessed. Clenching his fists in defiance, he fired back that his support still mattered, refusing to be cast aside. Unshaken by his plea, Athena cut him down with the harsh truth that his weak buffs only dragged them down. Surrounding himself with memories of shared battles, Est pressed that his relentless devotion and growth could not be erased so easily. Her gaze hardened as she dismissed his efforts, labeling him dead weight who merely rode on their coattails. Devastated by her cruelty, Est brought up the oath they made as kids, bewildered that their shared dream meant nothing to her now. Without flinching, Athena declared that reaching the highest tier of adventurers was impossible with him around. Bitter rage extinguished his sorrow, prompting Est to turn his back and walk away on his own terms. Grabbing the small coin pouch shoved into his hand, Est gripped it tight, determined to owe them nothing. When a former ally reached out with the coin, Est brushed the pity aside, rejecting any handouts from the past. Pausing at the threshold, he swore they would live to regret tossing him away, burying his pain beneath sharp fury. Storming out into the bustling street, he ran through town alone, abandoning the hall and the years he gave them. Back inside the chamber, the remaining members regrouped, ready to move forward without Est. Inside the guild hall, Est forced a painful smile under mockery over his meager earnings and low adventurer rank. A cheerful girl nearby openly doted on him, oblivious to the stifling atmosphere pressing down on the room. Est flinched under the attention, as Athena watched in cold silence, clear irritation written across her face. Turning to their teammate, Athena declared bluntly that keeping Est in their roster offered zero tactical value. High ambitions demanded elite talent, she reasoned, pulling Stardust further away from Est. Long before the split, Athena and Est had recruited two companions, forming a four-man party eager to make their mark. Grinding through dangerous labyrinth raids, Stardust earned rapid fame and climbed to silver rank, drawing envious eyes across the guild. Pushing into an advanced dungeon for greater glory, the party collided with a vicious monster that struck Est down in the fray. Awakening in a sickbed wrapped in bandages, his narrow brush with death triggered a fateful debate among his comrades. Under the cover of night, the party held a secret meeting and voted to cut Est from Stardust. Tormented by dread, Athena feared Est lacked the defensive power to survive deeper floors or shield his allies. Another companion openly questioned whether Est could survive another lethal clash, venting genuine fear for his life. Tears welled in Athena's eyes at the thought of watching him die in some forgotten corridor months down the line. Gathering around the table, the teammates acknowledged the guilt of abandoning him, yet agreed removal was their only viable path. Pure efficiency sealed the verdict, concluding that a heavy hitter must replace Est without him ever getting a vote. Delivering the final blow, Athena announced his expulsion, met only by Est's grim, silent acceptance. With the order finalized, the remaining members began splitting up the support duties Est used to handle. Friction quickly flared over the extra burden, exposing instant cracks in the squad's newfound dynamic. Though one ally questioned the ethics of their choice, Athena stood firm, placing ruthless results above sentiment. Packing his meager belongings, Est prepared to walk out into the night, leaving shattered bonds in his wake. Athena lingered by the doorway in silence as Est called her name, barely suppressing his raw frustration. A faint, practiced smile masked her true emotions as she looked back, scrutinized by Est's searching gaze. Suffocating tension filled the space, prompting the other companions to step out and leave the two alone. Parting ways down the dim hallway, an unbridgeable distance settled between the childhood friends. Est stepped into his solitary quarters, shutting the door softly as reality crushed down upon his chest. Collapsing onto his cot, he stared blankly at the ceiling, wondering where his path as an adventurer went from here. Rolling onto his side, he realized that relying entirely on the strength of others had led directly to his ruin. A cool night breeze drifted through the window as he vowed to rebuild his strength entirely on his own. Dawn broke across the city skyline, marking the start of a solitary journey far beyond his former party's shadow. Echoes of his childhood promise with Athena burned in his heart, reigniting the flame that started it all. Years ago, Est and Athena clasped hands, swearing to become the world's greatest adventurers together. Stardust rose to fame, and outsiders showered Athena with praise for both her beauty and her blade. Whispers soon turned toxic, questioning why a talentless buffer like Est was holding back such an elite party. Cruel laughter followed him everywhere, predicting the day he would be kicked out as useless dead weight. Walking the quiet streets alone, Athena told herself it was necessary, yet doubt still gnawed at her chest. A violent memory flashed before her, Est taking a brutal blow to protect her, his blood staining the ground. Screams shattered the afternoon air, freezing Athena in place as panicked guards shouted about a monster attack. Time had run out, and Athena knew no guild reinforcements could reach the merchants in time. Civilians trembled in terror through the streets, begging any adventurer nearby to intervene. Resolute at last, Athena charged toward the city gates alone, alone to become the hero she always envisioned. A frantic knock at the door broke Est's silence, revealing an out-of-breath messenger on the threshold. The messenger gasped out the news. Horned wolves had ambushed a merchant caravan deep inside the forest. Dread gripped Est the moment he heard Athena had rushed into the woods without a single buffer at her side. Deep in the tree line, Athena stood circled by snarling horned wolves, her sword raised against the pack. With the merchant safely clear, she drew a ragged breath and braced for a lethal stand. Athena shouted a warning at the lead beast, her knuckles turning white right as it sprang at her throat. Razor claws ripped across her flank, the crushing impact blasting her straight through the brush. Hitting the dirt hard, she scrambled to stand, but the feral beasts closed the circle without hesitation. Pain laid bare the truth. Without Est's body reinforcement magic, her limbs felt heavy, fragile, and slow. Athena realized too late that every quiet buff Est had cast over the years was what kept her alive. Blood dripping from her side, Athena roared that she would conquer this dungeon rank alone no matter what. She swung with everything she had, carving a bloody trench into the nearest wolf and forcing it back. Driving her weight behind the edge, she pinned another beast to the earth with a lethal thrust. Gasping for air through searing agony, Athena locked her knees and refused to let her posture break. Yet half a dozen horned wolves still circled her in the gloom, their red eyes waiting for her to falter. Her vision blurred as her strength hemorrhaged away, cold dread whispering that she was about to die here. The pack pounced in unison from every blind spot, choking off her last avenue of retreat. A blinding arc of mana cleaved through the clearing, hurling the leaping beasts aside like rag dolls. Athena forced her heavy eyelids open and saw Est standing tall between her and the monsters. Relief washed over her as darkness took her senses, right as Est caught her falling body with one arm. Est stepped forward and ignited a glowing magic circle, shielding Athena behind his reinforced stance. Staring down the ravenous pack alone, he tightened his grip on his hilt with icy calm. Memories of former comrades fighting by his side flashed through his mind, hardening his resolve. A calm smirk tugged at Est's lips as he prepared to dismantle the monsters on his own terms. Launching himself directly into the wolf pack, his blade became a whirlwind of steel and violence. Horned wolves snapped at his flanks, but Est held his ground beneath a canopy of snarling beasts. Resting his blade over his shoulder, he quietly promised the unconscious Athena that this would be over fast. With an explosive leap, Est brought his sword crashing down, splitting the lead wolf in midair. A single horizontal sweep cleaved through the remaining beasts, leaving Est standing tall over their corpses. Surveying the carnage, Est knelt beside the unconscious Athena and murmured that it was time to go home. She stirred faintly, her eyes fluttering open as she whispered his name in pure disbelief. Fragments of childhood rushed back to her, two frightened kids huddled together, clinging to each other for life. Recalling the golden heroes who had rescued them back then, she remembered why they swore to become adventurers. Looking at Est's broad back in the moonlight, Athena realized he had become the hero she always idolized. Waking in a warm bed, Athena saw Morelia leaning over her in relief, softly asking where it hurt. Daru strolled into the room, tossing out a dry remark about her reckless habit of taking on entire packs solo. He claimed a passing party had dragged her out, offering an apology and a soft smile that made her hesitate. Morelia snapped at Daru in outrage, warning him that a few minutes later would have cost Athena her life. Head lowered, Athena confessed she was desperate to fulfill her dream without depending on support magic. Staring at the blood-soaking Daru's shirt, Athena blamed herself, believing her weakness had almost killed him. Morelia tried to cut through her self-blame, but Athena only looked down as guilt weighed heavier on her heart. Daru tapped her forehead with a blunt chuckle, calling her an idiot for taking all the blame onto herself. Cutting Est loose came from her fierce drive to reach her dream, an act of tough love rather than malice. Grinning warmly, Daru reminded her that their party was still unbroken and ready for a fresh start. Morelia beamed, promising they would always stand with her as Athena rested in the warmth of their words. Pushing herself upright, Athena vowed to push past every limit and become the world's greatest adventurer. Fire returned to her gaze as she asked Daru to keep standing beside her on the front lines. A confident smirk crossed Daru's face as he pledged his blade, with Morelia cheering in full agreement. Flanked by her comrades, Athena smiled with fresh resolve, fully reaffirmed as the leader of Stardust. Relief settled over the room as Daru and Morelia stood guard, letting Athena recover from the strain of battle. Far beyond their warm room, an isolated path unfolded for the boy cast out into the cold. Horned wolves stalked Est through the trees, a grim echo of his exile and the support his party discarded. Bitter memories returned of sleepless nights at home, trapped by the curse of auxiliary magic that could never buff his own flesh. Miles away in the depths, Athena had charged forward, thriving alongside seasoned frontline fighters. Under dim candlelight, Est had studied and forged gear every night, desperate to stay useful from the rear. The breaking point came when Athena confronted Est, her cold, resolute stance marking his expulsion. Deep in a mid-level labyrinth, Est dragged himself onward, burning to grow strong enough to reclaim his place. His battered body crashed against the cold stone, staining the floor with the price of his reckless grit. Frustration flared as memories of endless failed training flashed before his eyes, yielding no breakthrough. A chained ogre pinned him against the cavern wall, its brutal aura exposing the gulf between their strength. Clinging to Athena's memory through the haze of despair, Est crawled forward with raw willpower. A radiant magic crest ignited beneath Est, ancient runes swirling around his wounded body. Blinding light surged through his veins, stitching torn flesh and mending broken bones in an instant. Rising Rising to his feet, Est felt the impossible pulse of enhancement magic coursing directly through his muscles. The ogre swung a crushing blow, but Est absorbed the shockwave and drove an enchanted fist straight into its core. That single punch shattered the beast's chest, leaving Est in awe of the sheer power vibrating in his knuckles. Cloaked in self-enhancement magic, Est faced a pack of ogres head-on in the narrow dungeon corridor. Darting between massive limbs, he unleashed a barrage of fatal blows before the brutes could close in. Exhilaration took hold, as he realized his buffs were no longer confined to aiding others from the sidelines. Purpose blazed in his chest as Est resolved to slay ever greater beasts until Athena recognized his worth. Morning light washed over a peaceful home elsewhere in town, completely unaware of Est's awakening. Fully restored, Athena readied her gear to dive back into the labyrinth with her party, leaving Est behind. Deep inside the mid-level floors, the vanguard moved cautiously, weighed down by gear and hidden dangers. Crossing the cavern, they spotted an unnatural mineral embedded in the rock wall and paused to inspect it. Without warning, the crystal pulsed violently, startling Morelia and throwing the team on high alert. Glowing mineral reshaped itself into a lethal beast, catching the party off guard in tight quarters. Daru inspected the shattered crystal beast, detailing its ecology to Athena as she listened closely. Their talk turned to veteran grit and age, revealing how many brutal years Daru had survived in the depths. Heavy silence fell over his unspoken scars, leaving Athena uneasy about the veteran burdens she never saw. Hissing echoes shattered the quiet as a pack of reptilian monsters closed in, sealing their escape route. Daru barked combat orders, bracing to hold the line without Est's support magic shielding their vanguard. Morelia cast intermediate ice magic, encasing the charging lizards in frost to buy critical seconds. Watching her flank, Daru noticed Athena's focus wavering under the mounting chaos of the ambush. Athena locked her blade against snapping jaws, her footing slipping on the uneven stone. Steel screeched against scale as she parried fierce claws, absorbing heavy recoil with every trade. From the rear, Daru analyzed her swordplay, noting that flawless technique could not hide her ragged pace. Raising her sword for a kill, Athena stumbled as a reptilian beast slipped her guard and drove her back. Knocked off balance, she cried out for Est to buff her defenses before remembering he was no longer there. That instant of hesitation froze her in place, creating a fatal blind spot as another beast lunged from behind. Jaws snapped inches from her throat as Daru screamed her name in terror. Daru intercepts the blow at the final split second, locking his blade against the strike to shield Athena. Sensing another strike coming, Daru barks an urgent command from Morelia to unleash her magic, swallowing her terror. Morelia steps forward and channels her mana as the beast lunges toward Athena. Jagged pillars of ice erupt from the earth, impaling the beast and freezing it dead in a spray of frost. With the monster dead, the party rushes to Athena, checking her wounds as relief washes over them. Late that night, Athena sits alone at the table, brooding over the close call and the gaping hole left by Est. Stepping into the room, Daru checks on Athena, clearly aware that she is still reeling without Est at her side. Memories of Est shielding her back in every past dungeon rush back, exposing how deeply she depended on him. Bitterness boils over into childish rage. Masking the tangled emotions Athena refuses to confront. Alone in his quarters, Daru recognizes that Athena has unraveled far more than anyone wants to admit. A sharp crash downstairs pulls him back, leading him to a falling glass on the dark floor. Slumped over an open bottle, Athena questions her choice to exile Est, haunted by how often she called his name in combat. Across the room, Daru listens in silence as Athena confesses that she leaned on Est more than anyone else. Harsh memories of past disasters remind them both that staying weak would have cost their entire party their lives. Heavy silence settles between them until cold resolve takes root, forcing them to forge ahead without Est. Under the dim lantern light, Athena steadies her trembling breath and steels herself to push onward. Athena insists on finding stronger battlefield support, but Daru urges patience before rushing to replace anyone. Brushing off his warning, Athena downs another drink, adamant that she cannot stay weak if they want to reach the top. Intense dizziness strikes her a moment later, and her footing gives way as the room spins around her. Daru catches Athena before she hits the wood, landing over her as he braces against the floor. His breath catches when he realizes how close their faces are, just as Athena slowly blinks her eyes open. Lying beneath Daru, Athena gazes up with flushed cheeks, her expression softening in the quiet room. Slowly, Athena wraps her arms around Daru's neck and pulls him down, leaving him scrambling to keep his composure. Before either can pull away, the door clicks open, revealing Est frozen on the threshold. Cold shock paralyzes the room as their eyes lock, obliterating any shred of trust in an instant. Est stands motionless in the doorway, staring down at Athena, clinging tightly to Daru on the floor. Their tangled limbs and flushed faces confirm his worst nightmare, leaving Est unable to take a single step. Raw agony cuts through his shock as Est realizes how foolish he was to think he still had a place beside them. White-hot fury erupts in Est's chest, and he slaps Daru's outstretched hand away before the man can speak. Bitter accusations pour from Est as he stumbles backward down the hall, convinced he was betrayed and replaced. Clutching his head in agony, Est rejects Daru's desperate shouts that everything is a misunderstanding. Blindsided by grief and wounded pride, Est roars that he will eclipse them all and make them regret ever discarding him. Deaf to their cries, Est bolts out into the dark night, leaving a suffocating silence behind him. Athena lies passed out on the floorboards as Daru struggles back to his feet, catching his breath. A grim resolve settles over Daru, cementing his decision that the party must must move forward without Est. Dawn filters through the windows as Daru spots a document on the table, wondering why Est had returned in the first place. Scanning the parchment, Daru realizes Athena secretly summoned Est back, rekindling quiet friction between them. Gossip buzzes across the Adventurers Guild the following afternoon, drowned out only by someone ravenously devouring piles of meat. Right in the guild hall, the petite dragon girl Frey keeps tearing through plates, stunning the veterans around her. Paying no mind to the tavern's bewildered stares, Frey shouts for yet another platter of meat. Plates pile up at the counter as Frey grumbles that she is still starving after clearing multiple dishes. Out of nowhere, Frey boldly declares she is joining Stardust, catching Daru and Athena completely off guard. Introducing herself as a rookie dragon brawler, Frey radiates pure confidence despite obvious concerns about her temper and drinking. The party debates whether recruiting such a powerhouse will elevate Stardust or invite total chaos. In the end, everyone agrees that taking on dangerous talent is the only way to reach higher ranks. Athena reassures the team that, as leader, she will keep the dragon under control and prevent any fallout. Frey accepts the invitation with a blunt warning that she speaks her mind, keeping Daru on high alert. Without missing a beat, Frey points a finger straight at Daru and demands he be kicked from the party. Athena rejects the absurd demand on the spot, reminding Frey of the deadly battles she and Daru survived together. Grinning boldly, Frey boasts they will reach unprecedented heights, prompting Mirelia to question her reckless attitude. Daru fought to keep his temper under control as Frey boldly teased Mirelia across the table. Sitting tall in the guild hall, Frey boasted that raw strength alone dictated worth in the field. The dragon girl pressed Athena about casting Est out of the squad, studying every flicker on her face. With a mocking laugh, Frey praised the decision to cut loose dead weight from their ranks. Mirelia cut in sharply, declaring all recruitment talks dead if Frey uttered one more insult against Est. Daru held his ground in tense silence, glaring at Frey across the cluttered tavern table. Snapping her fingers, Frey dismissed the talk about Est and demanded they move on to business. A shadow of doubt crossed the brow of Daru, questioning the sanity of provoking a reckless brawler. Unfurling her draconic wings, Frey demanded an immediate duel to establish the true alpha in the party. Stepping into the open floor, Daru accepted the challenge to humble her unchecked arrogance. A stray meat bone struck the wrist of Daru, dislodging his precious bracelet and scattering scraps across the wood. Smirking at the trinket, Frey mocked the worn band and told him to toss such junk in the trash. Rage overtook Daru, his dark eyes narrowing as he warned her never to disrespect that keepsake. Sensing the lethal shift in air, Athena realized Daru had been pushed far past his breaking point. Unsheathing his steel, Daru stepped forward and swore to teach her a lesson she would never forget. Steel met predatory gaze as Daru and Frey sized each other up before the watching tavern crowd. The veteran issued a formal challenge, met by a bloodthirsty grin from Frey as onlookers gasped. Pushed past endurance by Frey, Daru readied his blade to beat humility into the newcomer. Before steel drew blood, the blade of Golden Flower flashed between them, parrying both strikes in midair. Cold shock rooted both Daru and Frey in place under the suffocating pressure radiating from Golden Flower. Her voice cut like a whip, reprimanding both brawlers for bringing shame upon the entire guild. Heads lowered in humbled silence, the duelists yielded as Golden Flower restored order to the hall. To force real cohesion, Athena decreed that the entire squad would deploy into the labyrinth for training. Casting aside all cautions from Athena, Frey bolted into the dungeon corridors hungry for slaughter. Regretting his tavern temper, Daru resolved to anchor the front line with veteran composure. Reassembled at the cavern gates, Stardust crossed into the dark labyrinth with drawn weapons. Deep inside, Athena swung her blade with fury, yet Daru noted her timing was clumsy without support. A desperate shout from Athena came too late as Mirelia stumbled directly in the path of a charging beast. Chanting on pure instinct, Mirelia threw up a barrier of frost magic to halt the rushing fiend. Descending like a thunderbolt, Frey shattered the skull of the beast with one devastating punch. Pure annoyance flared in Frey, who immediately berated Athena for hesitating and killing their pace. Daru watched in stunned awe as raw physical devastation ripped through the monster ranks in flawless tempo. Carving an unbroken path of gore, Frey trampled every beast in sight without pausing for breath. Claws ripped through flesh, proving why monsters feared the name of the raging dragon Frey in battle. As the dust cleared, Frey rounded on the squad and tore into Athena for putting on such a pathetic show. Slumping in exhaustion, Athena admitted her legendary feats had only existed thanks to the buffs of Est. Disgust washed over Frey upon discovering her supposed rival was completely helpless without external magic. Bitter contempt laced every word as she declared the entire team too pathetic to fight at her side. Daru fired back, arguing that the formation fractured because she refused to coordinate with her team. Snarling in defiance, Frey pointed an accusatory claw at Daru and laid all the blame at his feet. Raising her voice to a roar, she labeled them dead weight and denied any fault of her own. Standing tall, Daru reprimanded her for charging blindly ahead and throwing the vanguard into chaos. Lunging forward, Frey seized the collar of Daru and snarled that solo kills were all that mattered. Unshaken by her grip, he warned that dungeon horrors would butcher any warrior who fought alone. Clamping his hand around her wrist, Daru stressed that this expedition was a trial of unity, not ego. Disgusted by her selfishness, he dared the dragon girl to walk away and face the depths on her own. Swallowing bitter frustration, Frey spun to leave, only to freeze when a firm voice called out. Athena stepped into view view, openly owning her current flaws, yet refusing to bow to intimidation from Frey. Acknowledging the terrifying power of Frey, the swordswoman still refused any alliance without mutual trust. Reaching out an open hand, Athena invited Frey to stand beside them and conquer the summit as one. After a tense pause, Frey shrugged and agreed to stay, masking her decision behind casual defiance. Regrouping after the fight, Athena acknowledged the strength in Frey, though their egos still clashed. Pulling Daru aside, Athena thanked him for the steady guidance that kept her confidence from shattering. Fully aware of her current limits, Athena swore to grow stronger until she stood as his equal. Trust lit her smile as she placed full faith in Daru to lead them through the battles ahead. Watching Frey tease Morelia, Daru chuckled, confident this squad possessed the talent to reach gold rank. With renewed fire in their eyes, the four adventurers stood united to face every challenge as Stardust. Weeks swept past until a monstrous roar shook the deep stone corridors of the lower labyrinth. Stunned dungeon crawlers froze in disbelief as a massive beast was ripped apart in seconds. Blades carved through flesh as Est tore through the monsters alone, striking with terrifying speed. Witnesses watched in awe as rumors spread about the lone warrior wielding self-applied enhancement magic. Uneasy whispers soon drew comparisons, contrasting his meteoric rise with the fading glory of Stardust. Caked in mud and blood, Daru led the battered party back to town, bruised but marching together. Onlookers openly mocked the ragged squad, sneering at Athena despite the stubborn fire in her eyes. Back at the guild hall, rumors ripped through their reputation, turning the struggles of Stardust into cheap mockery. Even after brutal drills, Frey and Athena failed to connect, leaving their synergy completely fractured. Doubts spread through the hall over whether casting Est out was a blunder, and if Athena secretly regretted it. Standing before the guild counter, the party endured cold dismissals and humiliating stares. Every eye snapped toward the entrance as Est stepped through the doorway in total silence. He carried an aura of absolute composure, freezing his former comrades right where they stood. Daru wished to keep the peace. The bitter fracture between Athena and Est hung heavy in the air. Frey bristled with raw hostility, worsening the strain as any reliance on Est threatened to shatter their pride. Trembling smiles stretched across the face of Athena, but thick guilt choked her attempt at greeting Est. Est merely smirked at her hollow words, pointing out they had fallen long before he ever did. Without holding back, he exposed their crippling weakness and how blind they were to his former support. A harsh glare fixed onto Athena as he measured just how far the former prodigy had fallen. Before turning away, Est promised she would live to regret the day she cast him out. Stepping between them, Morelia tried to diffuse the tension, but Athena could only whisper a quiet apology. Cruel laughter echoed through the hall as the party turned away, branding them the true losers. Heavy guilt settled onto Athena, her own self-loathing cutting far deeper than public mockery. All the glory once promised to Stardust had vanished into bitter resentment and open humiliation. Words failed her completely, the sting of disgrace shattering what little pride remained. A cold smirk formed on Est as he watched the raw pain finally break through her composure. Daru cut in with a stern voice, warning Est never to let arrogance blind him. Sharp accusations erupted between them, drowning out any explanation for the night. Everything fell apart. Unshaken faith in Athena held strong. Even when Est openly questioned what they could achieve without him, her companions spoke up in her defense, citing her relentless courage and loyalty to the party. Shared battles and deep respect surged forward, reaffirming who she truly was beneath the failure. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Athena, Daru declared his absolute trust in her future. When Daru guided the squad toward the exit, Est remained behind, masking his wrath in silence. Relief washed over Morelia, who cheered up proudly after seeing Daru take a decisive stand. Though encouraged by her allies, Athena still felt the crushing weight of uncertain plans on her shoulders. A quiet smile answered the words from Daru, whose steady confidence anchored the entire squad. Frey stepped forward with a sharp grin, ready to prove her strength as Athena pushed into the middle floors. Ignoring the battle plan, Frey recklessly charged the monster alone, infuriating Athena and wrecking their formation. Furious over their stalled progress, Athena clashed with Frey, prompting Daru to teach the dragon girl a lesson. To settle the feud, Athena proposed a timed hunting contest where the one who slayed the most beasts won. Daru divided the squad into pairs, pitting Frey and Athena against himself and Morelia. Scoffing at the idea of teamwork, Frey blamed the rest, but Daru pressed that survival demanded absolute trust. With blunt precision, Daru laid out every flaw in Frey, exposing how her reckless ego crippled the entire team. Blinded by pride, Frey snaps and takes the wager, putting her own dignity on the line. A nervous Athena hesitates, but Morelia reassures her as Daru stands calm, prepared for any outcome. Laying out the conditions, Daru grants Athena and Frey the opening strike against the Horned Wolves. With razor-sharp focus, Frey burns to silence Daru with an instant, decisive clear. An explosive burst carries her forward, slicing the first beast and chaining into the next kill. As Athena struggles to match the blistering pace, Frey barks orders and seizes total control. Even with Athena fighting hard, Frey surges ahead and takes down the final target alone, crushing the last beast beneath her boots. Frey turns to Daru with a smirk and demands their time. With a smug grin, Frey blames Athena for slowing her down as Daru steps up to the field. Fresh beasts charge into the arena, but Daru and Morelia take position without wasting a single breath. Sprinting across the sand, Daru cleaves through the front line with one devastating sweep. Behind him, Morelia unleashes crisp ice magic, freezing and shattering the attack in lethal unison. Every monster drops before the dust settles, leaving Athena and Frey anxious to hear the final count. Announcing a time less than half their run, Daru leaves the onlookers frozen in disbelief. Furious at the result, Frey screams that intermediate magic gave them an unfair edge. Her excuses collapse the moment Daru calls out her total refusal to coordinate with her partner. Disrupting Athena mid-fight ruined their synergy, exposing a complete lack of battlefield awareness. Humiliated and enraged, Frey bristles under the harsh lesson Daru just delivered. A direct duel is issued on the spot as Daru challenges Frey without a shred of doubt. Mocking his bare fists, she takes the bait when Daru presses right against her dragon pride. Frey charges in blind rage, but Daru reads her line and counters with a clean, devastating jab. Leaning over her stunned frame, Daru calmly offers to teach Frey how real combat works. Though racking coughs shake her chest, she forces herself upright, refusing to back down. With a deep, ragged breath, Frey prepares to strike as Daru invites her forward. A furious battle cry rips from her throat as she lunges straight for his guard. Spectators gasp as Frey ramps up her speed, forcing Daru into a tight guard. Slashing through the air, Frey drives in a relentless flurry that Daru calmly slips. Braced for a body blow, she gets caught off guard as Daru glides inside her reach. A crisp counter snaps into her face, shattering her momentum and breaking her balance. Fainting on the half step, Daru breaks her rhythm before driving in another swift strike. Down goes Frey from a single clean blow as Daru points out the fatal gap in her guard. Asked by Daru if she yields, Frey snarls back in disbelief at his raw martial power. Defiant to the end, she charges back in with trembling fists and reckless fury. Commending her grit, Daru notes how obvious and readable her wild swings remain. Another vicious strike misses as Daru counters with a punishing elbow across Frey's jaw. Desperate to turn the tide, she grabs his collar and slams him down in a surprise grapple. Reversing the hold in an instant, Daru pins Frey against the stone, stunning the crowd into silence. Every struggle proves useless against his iron lock, trapping her completely. Applying steady pressure to her joints, Daru warns that fighting back will only dislocate her arm. With one hand lifting her chin, he proves that a lethal strike could finish her effortlessly. Pressed by Daru for an answer, Frey grinds her teeth and chokes out her surrender. The lock stays unyielding until she speaks the words of surrender aloud. A tense silence breaks as she finally yields, her pride shattered and her stamina drained. Letting her up with a grin, Daru tells her to drop the old man insults and show some respect. Dropping to her knees in defeat, Frey listens as Daru declares the match finished. The calm nod to the team, he turns and walks away without an ounce of malice. Tears sting her eyes as she clutches her bruised cheek, facing the harsh gap in their power. Swearing through bitter tears, she vows never to suffer such a humiliating loss again. With renewed resolve, Daru and his party press forward on their journey. Having put Frey in her place, Daru steps into his quarters, exhausted and worn down to the bone. With the bathhouse crowded, Daru retreats to his quarters for quiet, only for an abrupt knock to echo at the door. Slipping through the doorway with tense eyes, Frey steps inside, leaving Daru on edge as he wonders what brought her here. She begins unbuttoning her clothes on the spot, making Daru jump back and shout in pure shock at the brazen spectacle. Pausing mid-motion with a trembling frame, Frey turns her gaze aside, caught between raw vulnerability and rigid resolve. In a tight, unsteady voice, Frey reveals her personal oath to yield her innocence to any warrior strong enough to defeat her in battle. Daru immediately waves his hands in outright panic, shouting that he never asked for such a bizarre prize. Heat flares between them as both start yelling at once, trading panicked excuses in complete embarrassment. Once the awkward shouting dies down, a heavy silence falls, giving room for mutual respect and bruised pride to surface. Offering no excuses for her loss, Frey concedes the match, acknowledging the sharp combat prowess of Daru. Victory came from sharp coordination rather than luck, Daru explains, highlighting how Mirelia timed her ice magic. Fighting as a lone wolf earns a stern lecture as he reminds Frey that party survival demands absolute trust and coordination. A flush of shame crosses her face as she confesses that impatience and the terror of falling behind pushed her to act alone. Bitter childhood memories return to her mind, recalling how cruel villagers mocked and isolated anyone without power. When a wandering adventurer once visited her home, Frey eagerly picked a fight, only to taste swift and total defeat. Drawn to his overwhelming combat ability, she eagerly soaked up his lessons on monster habitats, battlefield tactics, and legendary heroes. Through grueling practice and newfound magic, Frey finally earned the respect of her village. Even after joining an adventuring squad, she continued fighting for her own glory, hoarding kills and ignoring party formations. Refusing to carry teammates who could not keep pace, she severed ties and walked away, branding them dead weight. Joining Stardust felt like the path to glory, but the visible struggles of Athena left Frey bitterly frustrated. Without tangible results on the battlefield, the threat of losing status and hard-earned respect terrified her. Daru listens in astonishment, finally grasping the desperate pressure driving her reckless ambition. Watching Athena sharpen her skills with relentless dedication only stoked a fierce sense of rivalry inside Frey. Recognizing the vast potential within Athena, he realizes that Frey felt that rising power and grew anxious. Turning to tactical advice, Daru urges her to absorb companion methods and forge her own unique style. A quiet nod seals the conversation, bringing a calm understanding to replace the earlier tension. Before taking another step forward, she knows an uncomfortable confession still stands in her way. Walking beside Daru into the common room, Frey stands in silence as Athena and Mirelia turn to face them. Lowering her gaze to hide her unease, she she uncovers the bitter truth she kept buried for years. Raw pain tinges her words as she explains how fear of rejection drove her obsession with raw strength. Heavy tears well up as guilt overtakes her, prompting a genuine apology for the friction her arrogance caused. Awaiting their verdict in silence, Frey braces for rejection, fearing her regrets arrive too late. Athena warmly commends the bravery of Frey, confessing her own shortcomings as an imperfect leader. Speaking straight from the heart, Athena asks if Frey is willing to trust her command moving forward. Relief washes over Frey, and hearing genuine acceptance from Athena, she nods with tears in her eyes. Warm smiles fill the space as the party gathers to welcome Frey as a true and equal companion. Enveloped in genuine laughter and friendship, Frey discovers how comforting it feels to belong to a real team. Candlelight dances across clinking glasses as cheerful banter rings out during their first peaceful night together. Deep in the night, Frey and Athena drift off into exhausted sleep, leaving Daru to clear the festive mess alone. Remaining completely sober, Mirelia steps in with quiet grace to help Daru clean up the hall. Gathering the scattered dishes, she shares startling news. Est has formed an adventuring squad with 2 beastkin warriors. Daru freezes at the name Starlight, realizing Est never abandoned his core principles, only forged a new path. A faint smile touches his lips, feeling pure relief that reliable allies now fight at the side of Est. Such rapid growth from Est proves that his newly formed team holds exceptional combat potential. Reaching gold rank is no longer out of reach for Est, Mirelia notes calmly. Listening closely, Daru notices her shift the conversation, subtly acknowledging his own hidden prowess and past feats. Her unflinching gaze makes it clear. She suspects the true battle strength of Daru exceeds even gold rank standards. A tight frown forms on his face as Mirelia presses harder, demanding answers about his concealed abilities. Every oddity gets laid bare: his sparse attack patterns, immense tactical depth, and veteran battle instincts. The duel earlier that day confirmed her suspicions, since he dismantled Frey without exerting full effort. Locking her keen eyes onto the mysterious bracelet around his wrist, Mirelia remains certain his power runs deeper. Reflecting her suspicion, the Rue claimed the bracelet was merely an old keepsake and credited the victory entirely to martial skill. Turning the tables with a grin, he teased Mirelia about holding back her own true power. Flustered by the jab, she warned him that complacency would leave him in the dust as disciplined warriors surged ahead. Firmly claiming the top rank among them for now, she spun around and marched off before he could answer. A quiet smirk crossed his face, knowing Mirelia had boundless room to grow if she only trusted herself. Through raw friction and shared trials, real trust was taking root, forging Stardust into a true party. Watching the shared laughter sparked bittersweet memories for Daru, echoing the warmth of his fallen past. Jolting awake at the wooden table, Daru realized fatigue had claimed him mid-core once more. Glancing through the window, he caught Athena slipping outside in silence, blade strapped across her back. Curiosity took over as she headed into the open fields, prompting Daru to shadow her trail. Athena drew her steel in one fluid motion, driving forward with a razor-sharp practice. Her relentless form made it obvious to Daru that she was secretly pushing to shatter her own limits. A fierce shout tore from her throat as every heavy swing carved the morning air with raw grit. Silently acknowledging her drive, the veteran nodded to himself and resolved to alter the schedule. Inside the hideout, Frey shadowboxed with pure excitement, mimicking the crushing, brawling style of Daru. Frustration flared across her face the moment Daru called an outright halt. The dungeon runs for the day. Calm logic followed from Daru, pointing out that party fatigue ran high and rations were nearly depleted. Drafting Athena for a supply run served his covert goal to keep her from overworking her strained body. Frey yanked a half-asleep Mirelia out of bed, demanding they head straight for dungeon practice. Ignoring the orders from Daru, the fiery dragon girl dragged a grumbling Mirelia toward the field. Shrugging off the chaos, Daru stepped out after reminding Frey to rest properly. Thriving crowds flooded the marketplace, overwhelming Athena as she quietly yearned for the calm base. Teasing his companion, Daru held up a grotesque street snack right in front of her nose. Shocked by his description of its pungent bug flavor, she recoiled, yet soon joined him in touring lively stalls. Laden with heavy sacks, Athena reflected on the brief respite, resolved to train twice as hard at dawn. Stray insults echoed from passing adventurers, but steady reassurance from Daru brushed them aside. Pacing alongside him, Athena gave quiet thanks to Daru, recognizing how deeply she leaned on his guidance. A silent vow formed in her heart to grow into a pillar others could lean on in battle. Halting her pace before the crossroads, she declared that an essential errand remained unfinished. Unwavering resolve shone in her eyes as she pulled Daru along toward an unexpected destination. They stopped before a high-end clothing boutique, catching Daru completely off guard. Polished mirrors and elegant silk draped the parlor, vastly different from any armory Athena knew. Taking charge, Daru asked the shopkeepers to find an outfit that would truly match her beauty. The attendant marveled at the features of Athena, insisting such grace deserved far more than plain tunic. Before a single objection could leave her lips, staff whisked Athena straight into the dressing booth. Flustered protests echoed from behind the cloth as the unfamiliar fitting completely overwhelmed her. Standing outside the drawn curtain, Daru waited in silence as clerks bustled with vibrant fabrics. A tense hush fell over the room the moment Athena stepped out, leaving him utterly speechless. Trembling fingers clutched her lace sleeves, conflicted over whether this radiant look truly fit a warrior. Sincere praise from Daru cut through her insecurity, rekindling a soft warmth within the heart of Athena. Athena, paying the merchant on the spot without hesitation. Daru left her wide-eyed at the reckless generosity. Waving off her protests, he declared the coins well spent to honor a dependable leader. Dusk washed over the cobblestone streets as both walked back loaded with bags from the excursion. Clutching the wrapped parcel tight to her chest, Athena blushed from the lingering thrill of the purchase. Averting her gaze to hide the flush, she urged Daru to hurry back before the chill settled in. Quiet footsteps carried them onward until Daru gently brought up the shadow of Est lingering over her. Every word made clear that he had seen her silent grief and the punishing toll of her private drills. Validating her inner turmoil, he reminded Athena of her true ambition to stand strong at the forefront. Pausing on the path, Daru challenged her to confirm if she would keep enduring toward that distant peak. Reassurance warmed the night, reminding Athena that small detours were vital to avoid breaking under pressure. Walking side by side in silence, Daru gently brings up the lingering guilt Athena carries over Est. Every word from the veteran proves he noticed her hidden pain, relentless effort, and silent agony during drills. Daru confronts her fears head-on, reminding the young leader of her vow to rise above everyone and command the top. Halting in his tracks, he demands to know if she has the grit to endure all the way to that distant dream. Quiet reassurance follows, reminding her that painful detours are necessary to forge unbreakable strength. A soft smile graces Athena as she releases her floating lantern, casting her inner hesitation into the night. Skyward drift the glowing lanterns, sealing her silent vow to press onward through the dark. Greeted by the morning glow, Athena resumes her sword training with razor focus and an unburdened heart. Watching from the sidelines with a wry grin, Daru takes pride in a fierce drive unmatched by anyone. No longer chasing the past, Athena embraces the present battle and the power within her grasp. Drawing his steel with an eager smirk, the veteran accepts her challenge for a sparring match. Confidence surges through her stance, ready to strike at him with unfiltered, full-throttle power. Steel rings across the open field as their blades collide with blistering speed and unyielding trust. Down in the dark depths of the dungeon, Est stands alone against vicious monsters, gathering focused light magic. Arcane circuits ignite around him, unleashing a searing solar ray straight through the enemy ranks. Charging into the fray, Fu, alongside Sora, tears through the surviving monsters in lethal harmony. With the clash settled, Est inspects his allies to ensure nobody suffered a single scratch. Flanking his side stands Sora with Fu, former allies from Stardust, now reunited under a new banner. Just days ago, Daru chose to back the ambition of Athena, casting Est aside without a second thought. Cast out and mocked as dead weight by former friends, Est knew their betrayal would haunt them. Their retreating backs burned into his memory, leaving him unable to accept how casually they discarded him. Anxious yet determined, Fu, alongside Sora, stepped forward, offering unconditional loyalty to Est. Welcoming the Beastkin without prejudice, Est vows to forge a team far greater than Stardust. His ultimate goal is absolute, conquer the world pinnacle, and he asks if they have the heart to march with him. Without missing a beat, Sora, together with Fu, accepts the challenge, their fire matching the resolve of Est. The objective is locked: eclipse Stardust, prove their absolute worth, and avenge the wrongful exile of Est. Grueling training days forge an unbreakable bond as their explosive combat growth stuns them all. During a rare moment of rest, Est asks why they chose him when easier paths lay open. Beaming with bright smiles, Sora, alongside Fu, praises the undeniable strength of Est. Skeptical that raw strength alone earns true loyalty, Est probes deeper, only to receive their heartfelt conviction. Speaking softly, Fu reveals her true admiration lies not in raw magic, but in the unyielding soul of Est. That painful exile became their inspiration, watching Est overcome adversity to give purpose to their own journey. Standing tall with pride, their devotion springs not from sympathy, but from utter respect for his iron will. Every lingering doubt in his chest dissolves as their pure loyalty reaches deep into his heart. Past words from Daru ring in his mind, recalling a mentor who was once a brother, yet blind to true worth. Bitter memories of Athena flare up, making her cold betrayal sting even sharper due to their shared past. Yet, that agonizing abandonment paved the way to loyal companions and unmatched power forged in fire. Turning back toward his crew with absolute clarity, Est leaves all regret behind to claim his destiny. Deep in the middle floors of the labyrinth, lethal spellcraft and sharp blade strikes converge in unison. Moving as one, Athena and Frey snap a textbook pincer attack around the lumbering monster. High praise ripples across the team, lifting their morale as noticeable growth shows in every swing. Riding their combat momentum, Daru rallies the squad to pitch a bold plan for breaking their limits. A bold question rings out: should they push deeper and challenge the dungeon's deadliest floors? Thrill ignites the ranks despite lingering caution, knowing high-stakes warfare has only just begun. Clearing this treacherous tier once marked a peak, but conquering it today proves true mastery. Bound by shared confidence, the party unanimously resolves to charge the floor boss and secure victory. Ferocious demons thunder forward with ground-shaking roars as Stardust readies drawn steel for impact. Barking rapid commands, Athena charges ahead as Frey matches her stride in seamless coordination. Frey darts in to bait the colossal ogre, allowing Daru and Athena to flank the beast from behind. A thunderous slash from Athena lands clean, signaling for Frey to execute the finishing strike. Blasting forward with terrifying force, Frey drove her searing heat knuckle deep into the ogre's chest. Another demon lunged from the shadows, but Daru stood calm as Mirelia called out its path. Sidestepping the razor claws with veteran ease, Daru Daru cleared the line for Morelia to weave her next chant. Jagged frost burst from the earth at the command of Morelia, her ice shot pinning the beasts to the freezing stone. With the final demon shattered into frozen dust, Daru signaled all clear as Morelia lowered her staff. Regrouping in the quiet cavern, Stardust paused to dissect their tactical flaws before pushing deeper into the ruins. Inside their makeshift perimeter, the party broke down every misstep and opening exposed during their clash with the Brugas. Their frontline synergy drew praise, proving Daru had structured a solid balance of defense, pressure, and magic. Frey questioned the harsh critique, yet Daru pointed out critical delays in her recovery footwork. Even after Athena landed a clean cut, the thrashing Baruga had nearly caught her on its desperate counter. Frontal charges carried too much risk, demanding sharp flanking angles and tightly synchronized finishing strikes. Analyzing her blade angle, Athena realized low leg cuts lacked bite, whereas rear strikes slipped right past heavy muscle and bone. Deeper dungeon tiers held far deadlier threats, packed with cunning beasts capable of commanding entire swarms. Honest praise followed the critique, acknowledging the sharp teamwork from Frey and the rising combat power of Athena. Tempering his discipline with encouragement, Daru assured them that sharp instincts would carry them through harder fights. Both fighters nodded in fierce resolve, their eyes alight with excitement for the trials waiting ahead. Watching the pair drill their stances, Daru marveled in silence at how rapidly raw instinct was turning into real skill. The flawless tempo between Frey and Athena hinted at a devastating ceiling of untapped combat potential. Turning toward Morelia, the veteran noticed how she lingered on the fringe, intentionally holding back her full power. Daru pressed her directly, demanding to know why she held back high-tier spells that could have ended the skirmish in seconds. Shrugging off the warning, Morelia claimed she did enough, though Daru cautioned that coasting by would soon get her left behind. When Daru pushed further into her detached attitude, Morelia masked her deeper anxieties behind a wall of cold fatigue. Her consistent defensive support undeniably kept the backline safe, even if her refusal to grow stalled her true power. Smiling faintly to herself, she found quiet satisfaction in watching her comrades shine brighter than she ever could. Genuine pride for her friends collided with a creeping hollow ache that locked her heart behind an icy wall. Across the quiet tavern, the squad geared up for another dungeon dive, with Morelia choosing to rest behind. Stepping forward, Frey announced personal errands in town and asked the rest to tackle the dungeon run without her. Athena accepted the detour, casually asking if Morelia felt comfortable staying back to keep Daru company. Flashing an easy grin, Daru asked Morelia to watch over the squad during his brief absence. Reluctance darkened the expression on Morelia as the energetic pair dragged her out the door to join the expedition anyway. Amidst the noisy banter of her teammates, Morelia walked in silence, quietly wondering where Daru had slipped off to alone. Solitary footsteps carried Daru across open fields toward a weather-worn sword marking the final resting place of Aisha. Kneeling before the weathered headstone, he asked softly if Aisha had been watching over all the chaos that followed. He confessed losing every shred of purpose when Aisha died, until the stubborn recruiting push from Athena gave him a reason to live again. In those early days, he had written Athena off as reckless and fully intended to turn down her bizarre invitation. Her unyielding dream of reaching the pinnacle of adventuring echoed the fierce drive of comrades he had lost long ago. Casting his skepticism aside, he joined Stardust and watched their scattered ambitions slowly fuse into a shared resolve. When Est suffered a brutal injury in the depths, fear of further bloodshed forced the agonizing decision to exile him. Stripped of the vital enchantments Est once provided, Athena struggled through crushing defeats until her confidence cracked under the weight. Despite the endless bruises, Athena refused to break, fighting through the despair that threatened to drag her down. Witnessing her unbreakable grit ignited a spark inside Daru, shaming him out of his hollow, drunken stupor. From that day on, he stepped up to mentor the reckless swordsman and stabilize the fragile front line of Athena. Even as the rest of the crew adapted and grew closer through every trial, Morelia remained emotionally distant. Hard-earned battle scars transformed them from desperate survivors into a truly unified, capable strike team. Deep inside, a quiet pang of regret weighed on Daru, even if banishing Est had felt like their only survival choice. Broken free from the shadow of Athena, Est had unlocked his true power and now marched forward alongside trusted allies of his own. Before the quiet grave of Aisha, Daru spoke with heartfelt honesty, confessing how guiding this new team had finally brought him peace. Raising Stardust from the ashes had restored his shattered purpose, giving him a family worth fighting for once more. Fond memories softened his voice as a warm, rare smile spread across his weathered face. Looking down at the tranquil grass, he whispered to her memory that everything was finally going to be all right. Turning on his heel, Daru promises to return once he has grander tales to bring back to her. The warm smile of Aisha lingers in his mind, fueling his resolve as he whispers one last thank you to the headstone. Deep in the labyrinth, an ominous presence stirs in the shadows, entirely unnoticed by the surface world. Walking back to town with an empty stomach, Daru keeps his veteran spirit burning bright. He makes his way toward the Adventurer Guild for a meal, leaving Athena and the rest to organize their run. The guild hall bustles with noise, letting Daru sit back and rest alone at an empty table. Across the room, Est reflects on Starlight conquering the dungeon boss, planning how to refine their tactics. Memories surface of Athena praising his enhancement magic, acknowledging how much he and Daru once contributed. Though shifting party roles crossed his mind, Est refuses to waver from his dream of reaching the pinnacle. Old tension flares the second his gaze locks onto Daru, freezing the air between the former allies. Est spins on his heel to make an exit, but Daru lunges forward and catches him by the cloak, clamping a firm hand on his shoulder. Daru insists they finally confront the truth between them. Sarcasm laces every word as Est lashes out, accusing Daru of chasing Athena and dodging honest discussion. Raising his voice over the tavern chatter, Daru catches Est off guard with a startling confession. That whole painful night, Daru explains, was nothing but a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. Desperate to clear the air, Daru swears that nothing improper ever occurred between him and Athena. Fury boils over as Esti demands to know why Daru stayed silent instead of explaining everything back then. Daru confesses with deep remorse that he stayed silent out of respect for the feelings Est had for Athena. Lowering his head in a deep bow, Daru admits his hesitation caused needless agony and begs for forgiveness. Memories flash before Est of the dark room where he mistakenly thought Daru and Athena had embraced. Looking back with clearer eyes, he realizes darkness and panic warped the scene when Athena stepped away. Blind doubt had poisoned Est at the time, making every word from Daru sound like an outright lie. Swallowing his pride, Est offers a sincere apology for all the bitter insults he hurled in his anger. A broad grin spreads across Daru as he congratulates Starlight on clearing the intermediate dungeon tier. Brushing off the credit, Est points to the growing potential of his party and the strength of his support buffs. With genuine warmth, Daru acknowledges the fierce capability of the new comrades standing beside Est. His course remains set. Est chooses to march forward toward greatness alongside his new squad. Respecting that determination, Daru gives an unburdened farewell, wishing him triumph on the road ahead. Before Est can exit the hall, heavy boots slam through the entrance as a bloodied scout collapses inside. Seeing the man drenched in lacerations, Daru and Est sprint to his side to keep him alive. In a panic-stricken gasp, the wounded scout warns of a lethal demon spotted near the outskirts. Cold shock grips the entire room. A high-ranking demon had never been recorded in this region, spawned from the abyss of the labyrinth. Such monstrosities wield ruinous power capable of obliterating whole kingdoms. Murmurs of dread fill the guild, baffled by a demon manifesting on an intermediate floor without a trace. Down in the middle tier of the dungeon, Athena charges a savage beast with a barrage of sword strikes. As Athena lands her, Frey steps forward without hesitation, winding up her heavy strike. Frey unleashes a devastating punch, but her careless timing nearly strikes Athena and sparks instant friction. Stepping in between them, Morelia rebukes both Vanguard fighters for breaking combat coordination. Athena goes quiet in begrudging acceptance, realizing how heavily they once leaned on tactical direction from Daru. Burning with impatience, Frey demands faster growth, yet Athena insists on calm discipline over reckless ambition. As the party pauses to rest, Morelia watches them with unease, worried by their reckless hunger for glory. The parting warning from Daru echoes through the mind of Morelia, urging her to protect their reckless front line. Trapped in conflict over the request from Daru, she freezes as a blood-curdling scream shatters the silence. Without a moment to spare, Stardust plunges into the gloom, unaware of the carnage waiting ahead. An unsettling silence hangs over the empty corridor, deepening their suspicion of what lurks on this floor. Deeper down the corridor, Frey spots several motionless silhouettes collapse near the tunnel wall. Athena surges forward with drawn blade as Morelia covers the rear, scanning the darkness for an ambush. Fallen adventurers lie butchered on the stone floor, their lifeless faces frozen in pure terror. Gazing at the butchery and horror, Frey and Athena realize the killer has already vanished into thin air. A grim certainty grips Morelia. These adventurers were not slain by wild beasts, but butchered by calculated malice. Frey recognizes a fallen silver rank adventurer among the corpses, confirming the enemy possesses terrifying speed and lethal power. Thick smoke rolls across the cavern as tremors shake the ground, masking the silent approach of an unknown predator. Suffocating pressure pins Athena and Frey in place, radiating a bloodlust far beyond anything they have ever faced. Drawing her sword, Athena steps into the vanguard and orders her companions to fall back. Survival comes first, and Athena demands they flee the dungeon to alert the guild immediately. Torn between guilt and duty, Athena implores Morelia to trust her judgment and make a run for it. A severed human head flies through the dark and lands at their feet, proving the stalker has them cornered. Morelia freezes in terror, yet her loyalty holds firm as she refuses to leave Athena behind. Razor-sharp claws clamp down over Morelia with cruel laughter, making her realize instantly that escape is impossible. Grinning with sadistic delight, the beast relishes the sheer helplessness frozen across her face. An intermediate demon descends near the city gates, casting terror over the entire district. Est feels a jolt of dread, realizing Athena and her party are still inside the dungeon where the beast emerged. Chaos spreads through the ranks as terrified adventurers shout for action, yet none dare charge into battle. Guards shout orders to mobilize the perimeter, but Est hesitates, reluctant to entangle himself in past ties. Daru grabs Est by the collar with blazing intensity, demanding his help because lives are on the line. Desperate pleas echo through the streets as frantic townspeople beg Est and the adventurers to intervene. Lowering his head beneath their cries, Est is haunted by old promises and the sting of lingering guilt. Daru cuts through the hesitation, challenging Est to step up and prove his resolve as a leader. Protesting under his breath, Est struggles between walking away from old wounds and standing his ground now. With a piercing glare, Daru warns him that if he falters, everyone following him will fall too. Reckless moves from Est will only endanger innocent allies, Daru warns sternly. True leadership means protecting his new path path without abandoning the people who rely on him. Seeing the anxious expressions on Fu and nearby Sora reminds Est why he must protect his comrades. Daru takes the rescue mission upon himself, heading into the depths so Est can safeguard the city. Taking command, Est orders Fu along with Sora to evacuate civilians and reinforce town defenses. Quiet determination fills Est, knowing every command must ensure their survival rather than satisfy pride. Deep remorse gnaws at Athena, knowing no apology can erase the terror striking through her team. Marching through the gate as one, the warriors advance to confront the nightmare waiting on the other side. The twisted demon hoists Morelia into the air, cackling mockingly as onlookers freeze in utter terror. Paralyzed by dread, nobody moves as the monster tightens his grasp with sickening pleasure. Blood drips as Morelia cries out in agony, driving Athena to charge forward in desperate panic. Choking under the monstrous grip, Morelia screams for her allies to flee and save themselves. A fierce counterattack erupts across the chamber, flashing steel into demonic flesh without a second of hesitation. Frey lunges forward with blazing fists, smashing the demon midair with a furious war cry. Howling in shock, the wounded demon reels backward as black blood sprays across the stone. Morelia coughs weakly upon hitting the ground, but Athena warns that lethal danger still surrounds them. Heated shouts break out across the squad, Athena insisting on holding the line as her allies urge retreat. Calm logic cuts through panic as Morelia insists they stand together, relying on combined teamwork. Cruel mockery echoes from the shadows, proving the injured beast has only toyed with them so far. Flesh knits together instantly as dark energy surges through the fiend, laughing off their desperate assault. Even the combined strikes from Athena and Frey fail to leave a mark as the enemy regenerates with a smug grin. Dread overwhelms Morelia, seeing lethal wounds vanish in seconds against impossible strength. Black flames crackle across demonic claws as the monster prepares his next devastating barrage. Dozens of black spears materialize in the air, raining down on the stunned trio with zero room to evade. Shaking under crushing magical pressure, Morelia realizes this dark sorcery completely outclasses them. Total despair grips Morelia, facing imminent doom beneath the cruel sneer of the demon. Unleashing raw devastation, the beast shatters the ground into rubble as his cackles echo through the dust. Through dust and rubble, Morelia spots her battered comrades still on their feet as the monster conjures another barrage. Athena leaps forward with drawn steel, shielding the vanguard so Frey can prepare a counterstrike. Obsidian spikes crash against Athena as she holds the line, leaving Morelia to watch in rising horror. Frey lunges for a strike, but the demon snatches her out of the air with a cruel grin before Athena joins the clash, driving her blade in as Morelia screams. Searing light erupts across the demon's flesh where Athena drives her sword home, yet he barely flinches and laughs in her face. When the smoke clears, the monster stands completely unharmed, leaving their combined assault utterly useless. Their battered bodies hit the stone, every scrap of hope draining away against the demon's overwhelming power. Forcing her broken limbs to obey, Athena staggers back onto her feet, refusing to yield to the impossible odds. Raw strength had abandoned her long ago, leaving only the sheer refusal to back down in the face of terror. Unfinished dreams burn in her mind, and their journey cannot end buried under blood-stained rubble. Surviving is not just drawing breath, each of them still clings to the tomorrow they swore to reach. Morelia watches in silence as the demon mocks their desperate stand with twisted delight and taunting laughter. Bruised and bleeding, Frey steps up beside her, ready to unleash pure fury against the monster. A manic grin stretches across the demon's face as he raises one clawed hand, eager for another round. The fiend hurls a massive sphere of hellfire, but Morelia begins chanting her incantation in desperate haste. Massive ice pillars erupt from the earth, locking into a frozen barricade to keep her comrades alive. Power rings through Morelia's voice as she strides past the defensive line, refusing to hide any longer. Taking her place on the vanguard, Morelia locks eyes with the beast, ready to fight without a second thought. She weaves an intricate frost glyph in the air, catching the laughing demon off guard as a trap forms above him. Lethal ice spikes rain from above, crashing mercilessly down onto the overconfident demon. Howls of agony rip from the demon as frost impales his flesh, but Morelia warns a stunned Frey that he will regenerate. Driving an immense ice spike straight through the monster's chest, she pins him to the ground in a spray of black blood. Even as her mana surges, dread grips her heart, knowing this assault will not keep her allies safe for long. Tears well in her eyes, yet her voice never wavers as she resolves to protect her party at any cost. Behind Morelia's frozen barrier, Athena charges forward, cutting through incoming attacks with lethal precision. A spark of warmth fills her chest as Athena's bravery proves they are no longer fighting alone. Morelia had once been content just watching Athena lead until scouts began noticing her own latent magic. Top-tier parties scouted her, but she turned them all down, assuming raw talent alone was plenty. Listening to Athena's hopeful words and watching her relentless drive sparked a deep fire inside her. Just standing at Athena's side and sharing that fiery determination had once felt like enough for Morelia. Everything crumbled the day Est was exiled, leaving their teamwork fractured and Athena's edge dulled. With the party on the brink of collapse, Daru stepped in, anchoring the team with his veteran strength. Under Daru's guidance, Athena and Frey learned to confront their shortcomings and fight as one. Through brutal training, the two girls honed their skills, chasing ambitions that once felt out of reach. Witnessing their burning resolve made Morelia question whether hiding in the back line had ever truly satisfied her. Pouring every drop of mana into a massive frost lance, Morelia impales the demon's chest and collapses, forcing the beast to stagger in agony. Complacency had kept her comfortable, but the unyielding spirit of her comrades stirred a fierce restlessness inside her. Their fearless battle cries shattered her hesitation, awakening an explosive power she can no longer ignore. Watching them fight from the rear made her realize the massive gulf between their courage and her own fear. Staring death in the face, Mirelia unlocks her true strength, determined to protect the comrades who inspired her. Unleashing a torrent of sub-zero mana, she crushes the demon's counterattack beneath a blizzard of ice. The fiend's monstrous blow leaves Frey and Athena crumpled on the ground, teetering on the edge of defeat. Mirelia had hoped Daru would arrive in time, but with no rescue coming, she must take a stand right now. Athena raises her blade to shield the party with her life as Mirelia gathers mana for her ultimate freezing spell. Channeling all her remaining mana into one decisive strike, Mirelia encases the demon within a solid crystal tomb. Ice magic roars as Mirelia unleashes the full weight of her spell, trapping the demon with overwhelming force. Frozen solid beneath dense layers of enchanted ice, the demon goes still, yet none of them dare let their guard down. Her knees give out from sheer magical exhaustion, and Mirelia collapses, having emptied every reserve she possessed. Brushing off their praise, Mirelia urgently warns the party that the demon is still breathing inside the ice. Terrifying fractures spider across the crystal prison, chilling the party to the bone as the ice begins to give way. A violent shockwave blasts the ice into shards, freeing the demon as a terrifying aura of black flames erupts around him. Before they can retreat or brace for impact, the explosive blast slams into the party, throwing them across the floor. Towering over them completely unscathed, the demon sneers down at their desperate struggle with sadistic mockery. A venomous whisper escaped his lips, swearing bloody vengeance to an unseen shadow. Ignoring the warning from Athena, Mirelia charged ahead with cold fury in her eyes. With the demon still struggling to regenerate, she seized the fleeting moment to strike. Frost erupted beneath her boots as she poured every drop of mana into a crushing ice storm. Glacial crystals locked the monster in place, drawing howling shrieks from deep within the blizzard. Her hands trembled as she forced the frozen tomb to bind the beast just a second longer. Flames coiled around the mocking fiend before a blazing firestorm slammed into the exhausted Mirelia. The inferno swallowed her whole, shattering her barrier and dropping her limp to the scorched floor. Smoldering in the ash, she choked out apologies to the screaming Athena and Frey. Memories of the faith Daru placed in her flashed through her slipping consciousness. Even after wagering her life, the raw magic of Mirelia could not halt the fiend. Black hellfire shredded through the last defensive ward Mirelia managed to raise. Athena and Frey sprinted to her side too late, met only by the cruel laughter of the demon. Catching the stench of seared flesh, the beast grinned with renewed savage hunger. Furious dragon power drove Frey forward, smashing the wicked monster straight into the dirt. Athena held the broken body of Mirelia, crying out as the demon snatched a charging Frey and slammed her down. Hurled across the stone, Frey skidded back as the fiend raised a claw for the kill. A desperate lunge from Athena swept Frey out of harm's path before the lethal blow landed. Checking the pulse, Athena shouted that Mirelia was still clinging to life. The burns on Mirelia were critical, yet a faint glimmer of breath remained. Reckless fury had already crushed Mirelia, demanding a calculated strategy instead. A single misstep meant death, but freezing in fear guaranteed their slaughter. Steel returned to their gaze, drawing strength from every brutal trial they had endured. Locking eyes, Frey and Athena braced their weapons to strike as a single unit. Guided by the tactical lessons from Daru, the pair advanced with razor-sharp coordination. Athena took the vanguard to control the tempo, trusting Frey to exploit every opening against the fire. Weaving past fiery blasts, Frey baited the creature into wasting precious stamina. A confident smirk crossed her lips, dodging lethal claws to buy precious seconds for the team. The demon gathered dark mana, signaling the exact opening Daru trained them to punish. Slashing low, the blade of Athena carved deep into the flank of the monster. Frey struck hard from the blind spot, driving her fist into the staggered fiend. Severe pain jolted the demon, left stumbling by their seamless combat rhythm. Though breathing heavily, the two warriors held their guard against the resilient monster. Clutching its gash, the beast trembled in disbelief at their unbroken frontline. Blood dripped from the wounded demon, faced with two fighters standing shoulder to shoulder. Unshaken by cruel mockery, they charged forward to prove their teamwork was absolute. Steel met dark claws, grinding together under the relentless pressure of the assault. Hearing the cue, Frey sprang forward with explosive speed and lethal timing. A blazing heat knuckle detonated against its chest, followed by a vicious slash. Every strike landed in flawless succession, driving home the brutal fruit of their training. Pouring all her focus into one clean swing, she drove the edge deep into demon flesh. A dual strike sent the battered fiend crashing down, leaving the cavern heavy with tense silence. Venomous rage distorted the face of the demon as it dragged itself back up. The air shuddered with dark magic as the beast chanted a lethal firestorm. Searing flames enveloped Frey, tossing her violently across the shattered chamber. Slamming against the stone floor, she lay motionless amidst the choking smoke. With dark malice in its crimson eyes, the wounded demon fixed its glare on the last standing warrior. Athena lunged for a decisive blow, but massive claws clamped shut around her throat. Cruel laughter rumbled in its chest, treating her desperate resistance as nothing but a nuisance. Angling off the floor, she gasped for air as the monster mocked their futile bravery. Her strength evaporated as cold despair seized her chest, crushing any hope of victory. Drifting into darkness, memories of her fallen comrades surfaced. Every lost life proved proof of her failed leadership. Bitter tears traced her cheeks over shattered ambitions, leaving nothing behind except hollow regret. Years ago, true heroes shielded the weak, and that distant memory ignited a spark buried deep within. Shaken by the brush with death, the trembling girl crept forward as the stranger asked if she was hurt. Daru gave his name with fierce confidence, declaring he would surpass every adventurer in the world. Hearing those fearless words reawakened Morelia's forgotten passion to explore the realm. Driven to claim that future, she hurled herself into the fray, striking the monstrous beast head-on. The ambush struck home, drawing a furious shriek from the demon as raw power tore through its flesh. Rain battered the stone as Morelia collapsed from exhaustion, just as a familiar figure stepped into view behind her. With drawn steel, he strode forward, matching the legendary warrior she once idolized. Newly registered as an adventurer, Athena first spotted Daru slumped alone in a tavern corner, shunned by everyone. Whispers painted him as a lethal yet broken silver rank veteran, drowned in alcohol and dark rumors. Ignoring every warning, Athena bowed respectfully and addressed the brooding swordsman. Her blunt request caught Daru off guard when she invited him to join her fledgling party. Beneath his rugged, distant demeanor lay the unmistakable aura of the savior from her past. Doubt crept into Athena's mind, questioning if this weathered drunk was truly that legendary savior. Speaking with steady resolve, she asked for Daru's blade to guide them to the top. Back in the present, the roaring demon unleashed hell until Daru cut straight through the chaos. Blinding speed severed the dark spell in half, leaving Athena stunned by his sheer power. Rushing straight from the guild, Daru stood guard with drawn steel and demanded to know if she could stand. Athena nodded through her tremors, crushed by shame that the party leader needed saving once again. Frey lay wounded after taking the blow meant for her, and Morelia had exhausted everything fighting alone. A hard slap cracked across Athena's tear-streaked face, shattering her self-pity as Daru ordered her to focus. Tossing her a healing potion, he commanded her to pull the others to safety and patch their wounds. Crawling toward her fallen allies, Athena whispered their names and prayed their sacrifices would not be in vain. A quiet nod from Daru honored their courage, grounding her spirit with unshakable resolve. Entrusted to guard the wounded, she held her ground as the veteran stepped into the killing zone. Foul miasma erupted from the demon's healing flesh, swelling with murderous intent. Daru recognized the monster as a freshly spawned newborn, yet its flesh knitted together at terrifying speed. Pure fury flared in Daru's chest as he locked eyes with the fiend that butchered his team. Concrete shattered beneath his boots, launching Daru skyward as Athena cried out in alarm. The demon's arrogant smirk vanished. The instant Daru closed the distance beyond mortal speed. Tempered steel carved deep into demonic flesh, carrying the weight of everyone who suffered. Transfixed, Athena watched Daru dismantle single-handedly the nightmare that broke their entire party. Each thunderous sword strike echoed the exact devastating power Athena had witnessed in her youth. Every slash and posture matched her memories, erasing all doubt about Daru's legendary past. Enraged by the monster's malice, he unleashed an unrelenting storm of slashes to protect his allies. The fiend could not regenerate fast enough as Daru's relentless blade carved it to ribbons before Athena's eyes. Ignoring his own bleeding wounds, Daru pressed the attack as the demon shrieked in mounting agony. Sensing the beast's unstable core, he gathered his strength to deliver a lethal finishing blow. Desperate and battered, the creature screeched a frantic prayer to its demonic progenitor for power. Black vortexes erupted around the beast, chilling Daru and Athena as its anatomy violently mutated. Tendrils of dark mana reached into the core labyrinth veins, siphoning raw energy straight into its frame. A grotesque grin split the demon's maw as it relished the unholy surge flooding its limbs. Jagged horns coiled skyward from its swollen skull, its booming roar promising total slaughter. Abyssal tentacles burst from its back, radiating a suffocating aura that crushed the surrounding air. Daru's parry shattered against conjured obsidian spikes, throwing him back under a ruthless counteroffensive. Black lances pierced the ground in all directions, pinning Daru down beneath the monster's cackling assault. Refusing to cower in the shadows, Athena raised her weapon, determined to fight alongside Daru. Athena raised her blade without hesitation, stepping between the charging demon and her fallen allies. A hail of strikes crashed against her guard, cracking the steel and tearing into her flesh. Spikes rained down as Daru sprinted forward, but Athena had already thrown herself into the lethal barrage. Slumping into Morelia's arms, a bloodied Athena barely breathed after shielding her comrades from death. Daru checked Athena's faint pulse with relief, realizing standard potions could not mend Morelia in time. The smoke parted to reveal the demon stalking forward, eager to finish off every survivor. Trapped against the wall, Daru stared at the enchanted bracelet on his wrist as his final desperate option. Dark magic spiraled through the air, forcing him to pause lest a misfire strike the wounded behind him. Gritting his teeth, Daru braced to unleash the stored mana for one decisive strike. The demon unleashed a crushing black vortex, yet just as despair hit, a cloaked figure strode into the fray. As Daru raised his hand in desperation, a brilliant barrier of light flared to shield him from the blast. Stunned by the intervention, Daru looked up to find the banished Est standing resolute on the front line. Back at the guild hall, urgent rumors had already alerted Est to the mortal danger surrounding Daru. Daru's past counsel echoed in Est's mind, cementing his resolve to step forward as a true leader. The truth finally hit him. Athena had never betrayed him, but exiled him solely to keep him alive. Turning to his new comrades in Starlight, Est vowed to protect them through whatever came next. Though hesitation pulled at Est, the unyielding courage in his companion's eyes gave him strength. They stood shoulder to shoulder, choosing to follow Est, not out of obligation, but sheer trust. No one in Starlight would permit Est to shoulder the burden alone, demanding to fight as equals. Overwhelmed by their loyalty, Est found himself choked with gratitude he could barely put into words, shattering his naive comfort that harsh banishment had forged Est into the warrior standing here today. True strength meant taking up the shield himself rather than letting allies suffer on his behalf. For years, Athena had quietly endured the crushing weight of shielding him from reality. Support mage or frontline fighter, ST refused to hide in safety any longer. One strict condition bound their march. Every single one of them had to make it back alive. His companions nodded in unison, knowing that turning away now would haunt them for eternity. Finding his old allies broken on the stone, S charged the demon, severing its dark spell mid-cast. A thunderous impact echoed through the chamber as the demon was hurled violently into the rubble. Daru demanded to know why he returned, but Est cut straight to the point: evacuate Athena and the wounded. In Est's steady posture, Daru recognized the fierce resolve of a true leader. With the casualties secured, Est urged Daru to hold the vanguard and cover their escape. Hoisting the injured onto his shoulders, Est challenged Daru's veteran pride to buy them time. Full trust now bound them, leaving Est responsible for guiding everyone out. The demon stirred within the debris, prompting Est to immediately spur the retreat toward the exit. Daru offered a nod of silent gratitude, burying their past friction beneath mutual respect. Glancing over his shoulder, Est sent up a silent prayer for Daru to survive the coming duel. Escaping the labyrinth's depths, Est brought the battered remnants of Stardust into the sheltering woods. A pained gasp broke the quiet as Athena wept in his arms, prompting him to halt immediately. Kneeling beneath the thick canopy, Est immediately began administering critical first aid. Bitter memories surfaced of how easily distrust had broken their party when angry words drove them apart. Athena's eyes fluttered open, dazed by the sight of Est and weighed down by lingering guilt. Jolting with a start, she struggled to tell if Est's presence was a dying dream or reality. Speaking with gentle composure, Est explained they had cleared the dungeon and urged her to rest. When she panicked about the demon, Est reassured her that Daru was holding the line. Tears welled in Athena's eyes as she confessed the agony of having driven him away. Sitting beside her, Est offered warm reassurance that he understood her desperate sacrifice. Athena listened quietly as Est recalled the core vow of Stardust: a leader must protect everyone. He owned up to his past helplessness, thanking her from the bottom of his heart for shielding him. Heavy remorse settled in, knowing all his support chores had been a silent apology for holding her back. The realization stung. His total reliance had placed an unbearable burden onto her shoulders. Athena knew the brutal truth long before Est did. Staying together would have driven him straight to his grave. Flat on the dirt, Est finally sees the harsh exile for what it truly was: a desperate act to keep him alive. The cruel words she hurled were nothing but armor, hiding her own fear and helpless indecision. Tears traced down her face as she admits every insult was forged only to push him past reach. Soft apologies fill the quiet clearing, washing away years of silence between long-severed allies. Unfiltered honesty strips away old guilt, leaving both of them searching for mutual redemption. Resting beside Est, Athena embraces his forgiveness and owns every failure without a single excuse. Clasping his hand in raw gratitude, she smiles as healing magic closes the wounds and restores the fallen. Extending a steady hand, Est pulls her upright so they can move out from the shadowed clearing. One look back toward the cave mouth confirms her stance. Daru must finish this battle alone. A calm front masks her dread, clinging to faith that Daru has the power to crush whatever lurks within. Violent atmospheric pressure slams down on the trees, freezing everyone in place under colossal mana. Past the initial terror, the party senses no demonic taint, only an unfamiliar and razor-sharp control. Thick arcane vapor rises, masking all vital signs until the signature of Daru vanishes completely. When the cavern first collapsed, Daru carried the broken form of Est out. Fearing life had already fled. Echoes faded as the wounded fled into the trees, leaving a sinister presence to stir within the dark. Emerging straight through the mist to block the tunnel, the demon vowed that none would leave alive. Stepping firmly into the monster's path, Daru sneered that brute force alone could never take his head. Roaring with hellish fury, the demon charged to rip Daru apart alongside anyone foolish enough to resist. Fingers locking hard around his hilt, Daru refused to yield an inch to such an arrogant fiend. Fastening the enchanted bracer tight against his forearm, he vowed never to watch another comrade fall. After losing everything, he had wandered like a hollow ghost, grasping a steel blade without a purpose. Liquor merely numbed the grief of her demise, greeting each empty morning with cold, hollow silence. Then Morelia, Athena, and Frey entered his life, rekindling buried hopes as he watched them grow. The bright smile of Athena flashed across his mind, igniting blazing mana to shield their fragile future. Facing down the startled demon, the roar of Daru shook the cavern. No one else dies on his watch. Rattled by the suffocating aura, the demon realized this crushing force went far beyond ordinary magic. Panic clawed at the beast, sensing an unnatural and lethal gravity radiating from the stance of Daru. Without a second thought, the demon unleashed a raging firestorm to incinerate the swordsman whole. A single clean slash from Daru parted the raging inferno, chilling the monster with dead-eyed composure. Walking straight through the parting flames, the veteran met the monster with cold, unwavering focus. Dozens of blazing spears erupted across the hall as the demon roared that no mortal could survive. Staggered in confusion, the demon demanded to know how the strength of Daru skyrocketed without without the bracelet. Charging head-on with an energized blade, Daru declared his counterattack had begun. Deep within the magic of Daru, the demon detected two distinct souls clashing into one lethal flow. With every fluid shift of his stance, the dual resonance of two bound warriors amplified his strike. The awakened aura radiating from Daru paralyzed the demon in sheer, disbelieving horror. A faint, knowing smile crossed his lips, confirming this surge was never born from training alone. This devastating gift was passed down from the one person who once anchored his entire world. Offering a parting smile, Aisha gave her final breath to entrust her lingering mana to Daru. Channeling that sacred memory, he summoned her spirit to lend him decisive strength one last time. An unstoppable arc cleaved deep into the demon, shattering every defense and sending it staggering back. Pure terror gripped the demon as the fused strength inside Daru surged beyond all mortal boundaries. Confronted by this yawning gulf in power, the demon realized no shield could endure the coming onslaught. Trapped against the frozen cavern wall, the beast snarled in shock that any mortal could survive such mana. Two cherished allies had fallen to those ruthless blades back when the beast hid its genuine power. Surveying the frostbitten arena, Daru knew the destructive mana of the beast was burning out its host. Even as the demon gloated over controlling the terrain, a decisive strike from Daru shattered the ice barrier. Glacial shards erupted in every direction as the shockwaves of Daru blasted the crystalline wall apart. Stumbling across the shattered rubble, the demon gaped in horror as its absolute defense crumbled away. Unshaken and silent, Daru advances as the terrified demon braces for impact. Desperation drives the beast to scream for mercy, pulling forbidden power from the black flame. Howling in frenzy, the demon hurls a lethal spell, sending dark vortexes tearing straight at Daru. Amidst the raging storm, Daru closes his eyes, centering his focus against the crushing pressure. A vision of peaceful days, dining with friends, flashes through his mind, anchoring his resolve. Swirling with dark fury, the black vortex closes in as the demon lunges with his conquering battle claw. Daru cuts through the vortex in a single blinding arc, shattering the demon and sealing victory for Stardust. Desperate to regenerate, the monster claws at its wound, but Daru's enchanted blade severs its life force entirely. Pathetic pleas spill from the dying demon, yet no mercy awaits a fiend that slaughtered countless innocents. Without a trace of mercy, Daru steals his voice and consigns the monster to the abyss. Ash settles into the quiet air as Daru lowers his blade, removing one last shadow hanging over Stardust. Outside the cavern, Est senses Daru fighting on, and the worried party prepares to head back inside. Stirring awakened confusion, the wounded allies find relief upon seeing trusted comrades watching over them. Anxious questions pour out, but the caretakers gently urge them to rest and heal before talking. Athena explains the grim clash, recounting how the monster overwhelmed them after Morelia fell. Arriving in the nick of time, Est intervenes to pull his former comrades from the brink of death. Calm and composed, Est speaks words of comfort, having turned absolute despair into a miraculous rescue. Tears flow as gratitude replaces old doubts, realizing Starlight risked everything without asking for credit. Overcome with bitter regret, Athena bows her head, stung by her failure and humbled by their salvation. Est offers a reassuring smile to ease her guilt, but panic ripples through the group for lone Daru. Despite their burning anxiety, they hold back, trusting Daru to triumph on his own without getting in his way. A shadow emerges from the cave as Est points ahead, Athena gasping to see a battered Daru casually waving. Rushing forward in disbelief, the party breathes a sigh of relief as Daru calmly confirms the fiend is dead. Stunned questions erupt across the group, everyone in awe of the impossible victory Daru pulled off alone. Watching in total silence, Athena stares at him, sensing a hidden burden masked behind his easy smile. When Athena demands the truth, Daru simply smiles, deflecting her concern with a humble joke. Relief washes over Athena in a flood of tears. Just as Daru's legs finally buckle from sheer exhaustion, Este catches him on one side, and Athena supports the other, surrounding a smiling Daru with warmth and care. Bandaged and weary, the adventurers head back toward town with their old bonds quietly reforged. Word of the demon's defeat spreads quickly, yet Daru is frustrated by the guild's fabricated report. Alongside an irritated Frey, Daru fumes over the distorted headlines that erase their struggle. Athena asks why he stays quiet, but Daru insists the victory never belonged to him alone. Solemnly lowering his gaze, Daru explains that survival came from teamwork rather than individual glory. Morelia spots the strange bracelet on Daru's wrist, suspecting another power assisted him during the fight. Staring intently at the artifact, Morelia asks if the enchanted accessory carries a deeper secret. In a quiet voice, Daru admits the relic holds the sealed magic of a fallen comrade from his past. A heavy hush falls over the room as Daru reveals his ties to a legendary fallen party named Full Down. Speaking with deep sorrow, Daru names his lost companions, Crane the elf, Isak the warrior, and Aisha the mage. Their unmatched talent and absolute trust allowed the elite unit to rise through the guild ranks at blinding speed. Deep inside the labyrinth, the young adventurers advanced with total confidence, blind to the horrors ahead. Blinded by pride, they laughed off every warning, convinced no beast in the depths could ever defeat them. That arrogance shattered the moment a high-ranking demon appeared, radiating unimaginable malice. Overpowered in seconds, Full Down realized this terror far eclipsed even the demon Daru fought today. Aisha threw herself forward without hesitation, shielding Daru from a fatal strike at the cost of her life. Gold-ranked reinforcements arrived to slay the beast, Est, but Aisha's life had already slipped away. With her dying breath, Aisha transferred her remaining mana to Daru, begging him to live on. Renowned for her brilliance, Aisha left behind a void that shattered full down forever. To preserve her overwhelming mana, Crane forged an enchanted bracelet to house her remaining power. Gripping the relic tightly, Daru reminds his friends that he has never fought a single battle alone. Rather than claim hollow glory, Daru shares the credit with his team, refusing unearned praise from the guild. That pivotal moment stays sharp in memory, leaving Daru uncertain how the others viewed his silence. Turning to them with open sincerity, the veteran offers genuine thanks to take his first step out of the dark. Losing Aisha shattered his resolve, breaking his old squad apart and leaving him to drift through grief. Watching Stardust fight in the dungeon rekindled a fire, reminding him of the ideals he once held. A quiet confession escapes his lips. He wants to see the dreams of his companions fulfilled. Full of gratitude, he speaks directly to Athena, thanking her for extending a hand when he was lost. Her guidance restored his purpose, leaving the entire room stunned as Frey realizes what Daru endured. Moved by his raw honesty, Frey resolves to grow far stronger so she can stand proudly at his side. Quiet warmth fills the air, softening the heart of Athena as new resolve settles into her chest. With the hidden past of Daru brought to light, Stardust embraces him fully despite the road ahead. Frey asks for water as everyone feigns exhaustion, prompting Daru to step up with dry sarcasm. Standing by the sink, the veteran pauses, caught off guard by how naturally his kindness surfaced. Athena approaches Daru at the counter, their shared bond proving that old scars no longer hold them back. Entering the gentle conversation, Morelia proposes setting out on a journey to find healing together. Remembering the brutal clash against the demon, Athena recognizes that her current power fell short. Driven to surpass her limits, the swordswoman announces her plan to travel and chase her ultimate dream. Daru hears out her motives, quickly agreeing that a new expedition fits their needs perfectly. Reaching back into the past, Athena reminds Daru of the rescue he led before ranks or titles existed. Back then, his courage protected a remote village, leaving a debt of gratitude she never forgot. 5 years of fog clear away as Daru finally connects her face to the children he rescued that day. Meeting his gaze with clear eyes, she recounts the exact words from him that set her upon this path. His past courage sparked her love for adventure, giving deep meaning to a memory he thought lost. With fresh purpose, the party sets out on the road, heading toward a distant settlement. Guided by advice left behind by Aisha, he embraces her wisdom toward an unseen future. Walking alongside Athena, Daru reflects on every hard battle won under the protection of Aisha. That fateful day forged their bond, carrying her memory into every step they take forward. 5 peaceful days pass on the open road, leaving quiet gratitude to linger in the breeze. Cheering crowds pack the town square, hailing Starlight as heroes for slaying the dungeon monster. Amidst the roaring ovation, the members of Starlight exchange uneasy looks over unearned glory. Gazing down at the morning papers, Est sees bold headlines praising them as demon slayers. Lost in heavy thought, Est tunes out the background chatter, deeply unsettled by the printed news. Unease grips his allies who wonder if his thoughts are still tied to his history with Stardust. Stepping closer, Fu reminds Est of how far he has grown beyond the weakness of his past. Staring at the paper again, Est hesitates, wondering if his former party would ever welcome him back. Internal doubt pulls at Est, but his companions offer steady support without forcing any choice. The choice remains in his hands. If he still longs to join them, the open road awaits. Unwavering loyalty from Fu, alongside Sora, anchors his heart, cutting through the lingering doubt. As bustling crowds fade away, Est walks through the streets, weighing whether to seek out his old comrades. Radiating pure excitement, Frey relishes the thrill of new battles awaiting beyond the walls. Back inside the room, each adventurer prepares their gear, determined to train harder than ever. Speaking in a quiet murmur, Morelia confesses her doubts after realizing her solitary magic fell short. Replaying their near defeat in his mind, Daru reaffirms his pledge to protect the dreams of the team. Side by side, Morelia and Daru vow to elevate their strength and support Athena alongside Frey. Acknowledging her fiery drive, he smiles, knowing she carries just as much hope for the journey ahead. Breaking the silence, Frey suggests reaching out to Est again to properly settle the unresolved past. Athena smiles gently, honoring the new journey of Est without wanting to burden him with old regrets. The door swings open, bringing Athena face to face with Est as he stops in total shock at the entrance. Stepping forward to explain their departure, Athena listens as Est expresses the true weight of his dream. He reveals his long-hidden goal to become the greatest adventurer in the realm alongside Athena. Though exile brought bitter pain, Est admits it forged his strength, giving thanks to Athena for his growth. Thank you for everything, Est offers with heartfelt gratitude, leaving every past regret behind. A faint smile crosses his face, grateful for the trials that forged him into who he is today. Looking toward the open horizon, the young mage vows to reach the pinnacle alongside Starlight. Across the table, Daru nods in quiet respect, accepting the friendly challenge without hesitation. Between both parties, a fierce new rivalry ignites to see who reaches the top of the world first. Their hands lock in a firm grip, cementing a bond of mutual respect forged through shared battle. Exchanging confident smiles, both sides pledge to walk their own paths without holding anything back. Turning on his heel, Est steps forward with unwavering resolve to rejoin the allies who await him. Leaving Athena and the group in the capable hands of Daru brings complete peace to his mind. Daru answers with a steady nod, watching Est depart into the clear afternoon light. Pushing through the crowded streets, Est meets his companions, ready for the adventures ahead. Back at the square, Daru and his companions stand unified, filled with renewed purpose. Stepping out beneath the trees with proud smiles, they set off to forge their own legends,